oils with a mix of a few other nuts to add in a variety of nutrients, namely hemp seeds, which are also very high in zinc. And we're going to put in some cacao. We're going to cover them with chocolate. We're using some hazelnuts, a little flaxseed thrown in there for extra omega-3s, and I also love how flaxseed binds things together. And I also have some dried coconut. So let's start our chocolate melting now. I have my dark unsweetened chocolate, some coconut oil, vanilla, and some sugar. First, I'm going to add my chocolate to my double broiler. We're going to add a little bit of sugar. And I'm going to add a scant tablespoon. I'm going to take this off, so almost about 2 teaspoons of coconut oil. I'm going to add the vanilla in a little bit later. And while this melts, then we're going to move over and we're going to prep the inside parts of our ball and talk about zinc metabolism. Zinc is important in a wide range of reactions in the body. It's important for DNA synthesis. It's important for hormone regulation. It's important for ligand binding in cell receptors in cell signaling processes. It is important for regulating estrogen. It's important for recovery after childbirth. It's important for immune activation. It's important for your gut and epithelial cell health. It's important for vitamin D regulation. It is important for preventing oxidative stress in the body by various methods. Okay, boo-boo, you're distracting mommy. You're making noise, and it's going to be recorded. Leave that there. Leave the dirty dish there. That's all the flan you get, and you need to go in the other room. Okay, sweetheart? Give me 30 minutes, and I'll be done. Okay? Thank you. Zinc is important for immune system activation. It's important for a wide range of activation of antioxidants pathways. It is incredibly important before and after childbirth, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about when during pregnancy it's most important, as well as during lactation, and we'll cover the RDAs for those periods of time. Zinc is important for all people at all periods of time for its wide role of antioxidant effects in the body and by stimulating various antioxidant systems. We'll cover that. And zinc plays a role in insulin metabolism and glucose regulation. Zinc is an important builder molecule that helps your bones grow strong and important for growth and skeletal development, making it super important during pregnancy and lactation periods. So let's move over to the other side of the kitchen and get our food started prepping while we have our double broiler going and we have our chocolate melting, because that's going to take a while. Let's get started on prepping our ingredients for the inside of our energy balls. We're focused on using calabaza or pumpkin seeds today. Zinc is important for a wide range of interactions in the body. One of the large roles of zinc in the body is in regards to cell signaling. Zinc plays an important role in insulin signaling and in glucose regulation. And that way, if you have insulin regulation problems, or if you're diabetic or type 2 diabetes or have metabolic disease, or even if you just suffer from low blood sugar, hypoglycemia, paying attention to your zinc intake can help with your glucose regulation. This also plays a role in recovering in pregnancy from after birth, because during pregnancy, the mother becomes insulin resistant. Now, if she becomes too insulin resistant, what can happen is she ends up with gestational diabetes, and that's not good. She wants to become a little insulin resistant, and this is a natural part of pregnancy because the fetus needs to have the priority of glucose uptake. I'm grinding up into a fine powder 2.5 cups of pumpkin seeds, which I want to be my ingredient here. What happens is the fetus wants to have priority. So the mother's cell becomes resistant to insulin. And now insulin, it doesn't have to be complicated, you don't have to be confused. Insulin is basically this little molecule that goes to the cells and says, hey, let's put a door in the cell because glucose is coming by. It's like the glucose door. And when you don't have the glucose door, insulin can't get in. So sometimes the door, you want to have the glucose door, but the cells are resistant to putting a door in. So it's kind of like becoming insulin resistant. The insulin goes there and the cell's like, oh, but I'm not going to put the door in this time. And that relates to a lot of things. Both in pregnancy and out of pregnancy, zinc plays a broad role in, oh, I think how many of these is going to be better. I just want to put like half a cup. Zinc plays a broad role in insulin regulation. It does this in many ways. It is responsible for helping store the insulin. Insulin is stored in like 6 little molecules, and with the zinc, it makes a little hexagonal thing, and that's stored in the pancreatic beta cells. Zinc helps prevent oxidative stress to the pancreatic beta cells because these babies are like really sensitive. They're like me. They're like, oh, I can't go there. I can't walk past that store. There's too much perfume. It's going to make me sick. Oh my gosh, you're trying to use bleach to clean my house. Now I have to wait 30 minutes to air it out. And I can't leave my bedroom because there's so much bleach still. Let me tell you, pancreatic beta cells are like this because all these things that I'm talking about cause oxidative stress. And pancreatic beta cells, they don't do well with oxidative stress. It makes them sick and they're very sensitive. And zinc helps out in several ways, both by helping stabilize the membranes, helping stabilize the mitochondrial membranes, helping compete against iron and copper for binding to the membrane, and these iron and copper can cause oxidative stress to the membrane. Pancreatic beta cells, zinc helps with translocation of the glucose transporters to the cell membrane. Once zinc is released from the synaptic vesicles and is traveling in the bloodstream, the next receiving cells need to have enough receptors. Zinc helps stabilize the insulin receptor on the cells. It helps with recycling of the insulin molecule. And these I'm not grinding up as much, but we have about a scant half cup of hazelnuts here. Zinc plays lots of roles in the cell. Zinc also plays a role in stabilizing leptin. Leptin is a feedback glucogenic hormone, and leptin stimulates the body to eat food. So zinc plays a role in this. And zinc also surprisingly plays a role in cortisol regulation, and this becomes important in the cell because cortisol, I gotta think about what I'm doing here. I'm not gonna grind up the sesame seeds. I'm just gonna put in 3 tablespoons of black sesame seeds. Black sesame seeds also are high in zinc. Measure how much coconut I've got here, because that's what's going in. About 3/4 cup to a cup of ground coconut. Let's say about 3/4 cup. Then I want to put in a good measure of hemp seeds. Say a 1/3 cup of hemp seeds. I'm going to put in 2 tablespoons of flaxseed. Zinc is really important postpartum for postpartum recovery, and besides the 1st and 3rd trimester, where during pregnancy where zinc is most important, zinc is most important in the 1st trimester. You must consume enough zinc, and then again in the 3rd trimester when the fetus is rapidly accumulating zinc. And after that, the mother then needs high amount of zinc, but the baby also is depending upon the mother's zinc level for the zinc in their breast milk. Though generally, if you supplement zinc, it's not going to change the amount in the breast milk. The breast milk has mechanisms. What this means is the breast milk has mechanisms to keep the zinc levels relatively constant. Now remember, this is all with a grain of salt, because if you're not consuming enough and you're severely deficient, eventually your breast milk is going to be deficient. But it goes to show you this is a type 2 nutrient. If you're interested in that, you can check out my book, Nourishing Generations. It is a reference manual for nutrition during pregnancy and lactation. And it's more of a reference manual for professionals, though if you're not a professional, it can be very useful to help guide you when consulting with professionals, because you will not find this information. For example, something that you wouldn't find from a medical professional is if they decide you're anemic and to give you an iron supplement. Well, taking an iron supplement can cause inhibition because zinc and iron compete for uptake. But if you're taking a high iron supplement, you're more likely to be deficient in zinc. This is why I really like to approach nutrition from a whole food standpoint rather than from a supplementation, because there's always downsides to supplementation, at least the majority of the time. I'm going to add some ginger. Mostly I want to add the ginger because it's going to act as a little bit of a preservative, just having those properties. And fresh ginger, I have it here, it's organic, it's lovely, and we're going to grate some of that in. Zinc is really vital for postpartum recovery in regards to wound healing. You have a dinner-sized plate wound in your uterus after the placenta leaves, but more than that, it's also important in regards to antioxidant support and hormonal stabilization in more ways than one. Of course, zinc is valuable for healing the wound, and you need it, the correct keratinocytes need it in order to heal that wound and also to improve your immune system functioning. But zinc also plays a role in regulating your hormones after birth and getting back on track in more ways than one. It does this, when you give birth, your cortisol levels are really high to help with the pain, to help you stay awake. I mean, if you had a natural childbirth, you are awake, baby. Like, wild animals coming is something beautiful, beautiful. I love it. Gorgeous. Okay, you can go in the bedroom if you want to do that. Thank you for being quiet. You never felt so good as you did the night after giving a natural birth. You're awake and you're just like, oh, I feel tons of cortisol and tons of hormones running through you to help make that happen. But later, your body needs to downregulate the cortisol, and zinc helps inhibit a hormone that's responsible for, that would normally translate the inactive cortisone into cortisol. So zinc, when you have enough of zinc, it inhibits some of these hormones, hydroxylases or carboxylases. Zinc inhibits these hormones that cause additional activation of cortisol, and that helps return your body to normal functioning. Zinc also helps get your thyroid back on track after pregnancy, because it not only is responsible, plays a role in helping activate thyroid hormones, but it also plays a role in thyroid hormone at the gene level. So you could have enough T3 and you could go back to your doctor and say, hey, I feel really tired, I'm really sluggish, it's still 3 months after birth, I don't know what's wrong with me, why am I so tired? She could test your thyroid and you could have normal levels of T3. But what could be happening is, if you're zinc deficient, is that the T3 cannot act at the gene level to be responsible for synthesis of more thyroid hormones and getting the thyroid system back on track and at the DNA level. And so that's another reason why zinc is really important after childbirth. Also, after childbirth, of course, your hormones have to come back into functioning, and a lot of times women can become estrogen dominant after pregnancy, and this happens because there's too much estrogen in the body, and this can occur by several reasons. I'm just going to stir this up to get it all mixed before then we add in our sticky date. I kind of want to get that ginger spot in there. And zinc can help prevent estrogen dominance, and when you have too much estrogen, you can end up with things like more bloating, poor mood before your periods, more PMS, being completely incapacitated around your period, and you need progesterone to once again take dominance after pregnancy instead of estrogen. And one way this happens is by zinc inhibits an enzyme called aromatase. Now, aromatase is responsible for converting testosterone and androhydrostenone into estrogen. If you don't have zinc, that aromatase enzyme can become too active and you can have too much estrogen production. and you don't want that. You want to have more progesterone. And zinc also plays a role in helping put the estrogen and progesterone levels back together so that you're properly regulated. And that is a reason that sometimes I think that we need to have higher recommendations, even though I see the reason why sometimes the recommendations are where they're at, because it can be difficult to get sufficient levels of zinc in your body. The recommendations for pregnancy are 11 milligrams, and for lactation it's 12 milligrams, and this is just 1 milligram more than the base on a regular woman. Now, the basis for pregnancy is the same as what the recommendations for men are, and that's why they chose that recommendation. I'm going to blend up our dates. I need to take the pits out of a lot of these. And zinc plays a role in helping put the estrogen and progesterone levels back together so that you're properly regulated. And that is a reason that sometimes I think that we need to have higher recommendations, even though I see the reason why sometimes the recommendations are where they're at, because it can be difficult to get sufficient levels of zinc in your body. The recommendations for pregnancy are 11 milligrams, and for lactation it's 12 milligrams, and this is just 1 milligram more than the base on a regular woman. Now, the basis for pregnancy is the same as what the recommendations for men are, and that's why they chose that recommendation. Next, we're going to blend up our dates. Zinc also helps the body return to normal insulin signaling after pregnancy and childbirth, and it helps reduce that glucose resistance that the mother has. And without zinc, you can have problems with getting enough glucose and insulin regulation. Zinc in pregnancy and out of pregnancy, it helps regulate the integrity of your epithelial cells, particularly within the gut, and it helps with keeping microbial diversity. What this means is you have bacteria in your gut that are healthy bacteria, but you need to have a lot of different types of healthy bacteria. And zinc plays a very important role in maintaining that microbial diversity. Zinc also plays a role in maintaining endothelial tight junctions, which prevents leaky gut. If you're having trouble after eating a meal, or if you're having leaky gut issues, basically leaky gut is when the endothelial cells, or the cells, have little spaces between them, so when you eat, food particles go out into the bloodstream. And this can manifest as brain fog, nausea, feeling all over, malaise, and zinc helps maintain those tight junctions, and that's really important. So, for example, if someone came to me in my nutrition practice and said, hey, I've just been on a lot of steroids, and now everything I eat, it's making me sick, I don't feel well. Well, there would be a lot of things that we would do to help recover their gut, and because steroids can help, steroids degrade the gut, and they can cause, over the long term, a lot of gut problems because they cause degradation of those endothelial cells, which is super bad. So one thing I would do is I would make sure that their zinc intake was sufficient, and I would give them a prescription for either zinc lounges or a dish like this, where this would be their regular snack. And then also with the consumption of foods such as shellfish, oysters, all these foods are very, very high in zinc. And we all know that zinc is important for the immune system, and you might ask, well, in what ways is it important? And that is for the T-cell activities. And zinc is especially important during pregnancy for your baby to build up that zinc in the third trimester, because during the third trimester and then all the way up until the baby is about 7 years old, they have a thymus gland. And then after that, the thymus gland goes away. It's a little gland right here in the chest, and this gland is responsible for the development of the innate immune system. 2 cups of dates here. This is the first time I made this recipe and yes, I can just make a recipe up and do it on a video, because I've been cooking for a long, long time, and my stuff just comes out good, and I get bored making the same thing all the time. But we might have to reduce the amount of nuts for the amount of dates that I actually have on hand. Set up. Best practice is to take this, and then we're gonna knead as much of our nut mixture into that we can. And then later, I'm gonna use that mixture to make other things equally delicious. Zinc is very important in the development of the immune system, particularly in regards to the fetus. Remember, the fetus is building up those stores of zinc in that third trimester, and it's dependent upon the mother's stores. And zinc is also important in the first trimester for growth, for laying down the structure of the baby, and for embryogenesis. So you really need to have enough during your first trimester as well. During the third trimester and afterwards, the baby starts developing its immune system through T cells, and the T cells, zinc plays an important role in thymulin, which is a key compound that stimulates the development of these T cells in the body. And you have several types of T cells. Ooh, I need my big bowl. And you have a number of different types of T cells that are important for the immune system. You have 3 main T cells, and you can always have trouble remembering the T cells, but I'm going to share with you my little trick for remembering T cells. First, you have the manager T cells. And these can be good managers or they can be bad managers depending upon your zinc intake during pregnancy and lactation, because lactation is a major time when these T cells are developing and the immune system of your baby is forming. I personally have always struggled with my immune system. I look really strong and healthy. I have great muscle growth. I have a mesomorph type body. I appear very healthy, but I really struggle with my immune system, and things make me sick. I get gut stuff, I get a cold real easily, and they last for a long time. And I really think that a lot of this, I know a lot of this is due to several factors. One is stress, underlying stress, but another is my mother followed a vegetarian, she didn't follow a vegetarian, she followed a vegan diet when she was pregnant with me. And even though I used to be vegan, and I do think that there's a time and place for being vegan, and I know that my mother healed her kidney disease problems with being vegan. I think it's excellent to heal. Being vegan can be excellent for healing diseases that are related to inflammation, metabolic disease, kidney disease. You don't need much protein. Healing disease and inflammation. I was not completely vegan. I can't do that, baby. I can't. My hands are real dirty. No. I healed mast cell activation syndrome by being not completely vegan, but vegan 98% of the time, all plant-based. Several times in a month I would eat eggs or have some chicken, and I do think I was a little B12 deficient, and that's why occasionally I would cheat and have some chicken, like organic chicken, but otherwise it's totally vegan. But being vegan in pregnancy is counterindicated, and one reason for this is although you can get enough zinc in a vegan or vegetarian diet, wow, I'm smashing that ring. It's going to be a soak and a scrub there. Then you actually can not get enough zinc, and because a lot of zinc is found in shellfish, a lot of zinc is found in beef, good amount of zinc is found in eggs. Not a lot, but enough. Now I'm just going to add little bit by little bit to try to get this incorporated as much as possible. This, you can see, it's easier to knead it a little bit at a time. And you need zinc for the development of the immune system, for those T cells. And first, like I said, you have the manager T cells. Well, they have a special name, helper T cells. And because they're always going out and helping out and kind of directing what's going on, the management of the immune system and the production. And then you have the bad boys of the immune system. I call these the guys, they're at the gym, doing martial arts, working out, training, tattoos, big old guns, both the arm and the armed kind. These cells are toxic to cells, and so they have a name that just reflects that: cytotoxic T cells. And cyto simply means cell. You can think of it as cytoplasm, just means cell. So we have the cytotoxic T cells that go around attacking everything. They recognize viruses and the antibodies, but sometimes they go overboard and they can self-attack. So, and they can attack your own antigens. You don't want that. So then the body has some other T cells, and these guys are the guys who, kind of like the nerdy guys. You know, they always know what's going on. They're smart, maybe a little bit autistic, not super autistic. There's a big difference between being handicapped by autism and being, having superpowers by autism. These are like the superpower autism. They're very organized, they're very disciplined, they're very moral. They can tell right from wrong. You can't bribe them. So these cells are called the regulatory T cells. And all these cells, for the development of all these cells, you need to have sufficient levels of zinc. And especially during a child's younger years, which is when their immune system is developing. Ooh, this is, talk about a workout here. And when their immune system is developing, if you have enough zinc, they're producing enough thymulin so that you can have proper instructions and development of the immune system. Okay. That's a big batch right here. Almost 2 cups a day. I think I need like another cup and a half days to make the rest of this. Okay. Now, see here. We've got it all nice and incorporated, and then at this point I'm going to knead in some of these the cacao seeds, and these cacao seeds are super delicious and high in magnesium, also higher in iron. Some levels of zinc as well. Kind of push these in. Probably could have done that beforehand. So that's why when you're lactating, it's really important to eat shellfish on a regular basis, oysters, but pumpkin seeds. I mean, pumpkin seeds are so high in zinc, and hemp seeds are as well. If you eat 2 tablespoons of pumpkin seeds, you can get like almost 4 milligrams of zinc, and that's what, like 30% of your daily needs. And you can eat half a cup of pumpkin seeds a day as a snack and get all your full daily zinc needs. And even though making a recipe like this takes some time and labor separate from your meals, you think, I already got to cook 2 or 3 meals in a day. How am I going to make this? It really helps, especially when you're pregnant and or lactating, to have snacks like this on hand, because you can't always cook and you do need to grab something. And when you grab something out, it's always like a banana field smoothie. And yes, it fills you up and it's delicious, but it's like, okay, you just gave me 3 bananas and I paid $7 for that, and you put half a teaspoon of cacao seeds and half a teaspoon of hemp seeds. I mean, how nutritious is that? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna roll all these up like this, and then we're gonna dip these in chocolate. And I'll be back after this to talk to you some more about zinc and all the myriad ways that's important in the body during pregnancy and lactation. I'm going to clean this up and bring the chocolate over here. We're going to roll these up and dip them in chocolate and then let them cool.